Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mech Bay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Josh. I've got my co-host, Lore Master Denham, and Paint Lord Dustin with me today. And we are the Mech Bay Podcast, your number one source for all things casual to competitive BattleTech. And today, we are reporting on the weather. Because, quote, not every planet is a monobiome like Hoth or Tatooine.
Coruscant, whose biome is city. Yeah, it's weird. I'm not fond of monobiome planets.
Oh, come on. You know that BattleTech only has the planets that it makes maps for.
It's a little base. We've got grasslands. We've got, I actually don't know any of the other names. Yeah. Desert. Yeah, we do have desert. Yeah. There's
Savannah.
Canyons.
We got some savannas.
Canyons?
Yeah, we got canyons
in there. Yeah. Alien planet or something like that.
Yeah, crystals.
Acid
pools. We got all kinds of stuff.
But let's get into some BattleTech news. So the first major thing is the Pledge Manager is finally closed.
For real, not for
It's over. For real this time. Or so they say.
I mean, they did just charge all of our cards again, so I would really hope it's over now.
Charged.
Yeah, that's right.
The only problem now is nobody knows what we ordered back then.
Yes. Sure, I've kind of forgotten about them, but we're excited when it arrives.
And I'll regret it when everybody gets their cool new plastic. But
yeah, you will.
Give me another 6 months, and I'll have them, and I'll be fine.
I did not end up springing for the $200 book. I did not. I thought about it for a long time. It'd be cool to have a book that every time you open it, it goes through the Bitch and Betty startup sequence. But
Wait, what?
Yeah, did you not see the video? Yeah. No. You open up the book and it does reactor online. Yeah.
But hold on. I feel like people have really strong opinions on which Bitch and Betty is. Because for me,
they specifically said it was Mechwarrior 2.
Oh, this is the best one. Is it not the best one?
Yeah, a lot of people think so. So that's the one that it's from. Yeah, now you regret it. Now he regrets it.
For our not Catalyst news, but also major BattleTech news, PGI released their teaser trailer for Mechwarrior 5 Clans, where we are all apparently Smoke Jaguars.
Yep, but because I mean everything had promised the clans. HBS BattleTech said that they were going to do a clan thing. Mechwarrior 5, they talked about it too, so nobody believed it would happen.
HBS BattleTech said they were going to do a clan thing?
When they first started, they were talking about, they were trying to decide whether it was going to be a DLC clan invasion or an HBS BattleTech 2 story with the clans, but it just never panned out. But it didn't matter because so many people made really cool fan mods and stuff that they did a more thorough job than HBS was going to end up doing anyway. It's sad. I would have liked to have seen an official one.
Maybe it'll come to us one day.
Well, the Mechwarrior 5 one did, and it's got the best of all clans.
Smoke Jags.
That's right.
So this is the opposite of Mechwarrior 3?
Yeah. The Mechwarrior 3 was they were the bad guys in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now you get to play the good guys.
That's right. I'm excited. I mean, it's going to be fun. There's so much Wolf and Jade Falcon stuff out there, and even Ghost Bear. It's nice to be a player as the Smoke Jaguars, go through the Sibco and stuff. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, I have really high hopes because the storytelling was such a weak point on Mechwarrior 5 Mercs. Which is understandable because you can get your procedural stuff and you can make your little game loop and you can fire it off into the sunset. But I want that story. And if you can't play mercenaries because you're playing Smoke Jags. So I have a hope that we're going to get a good story, maybe some character development, maybe something other than, strange people killed my dad and I have to avenge him.
If somebody killed your dad, you're not really a Smoke Jaguar, are you?
Yeah, right.
What?
Oh, God. And they killed your dad.
No.
Now I heard some speculation that this was they weren't really ready to announce this and that It got
Oh,
leaked
it
or
got
something?
leaked. 100% it got leaked. Yeah. That's why it's not coming out until like sometime in 2024. It's got such a long release window now because it got leaked.
Oh. I mean, yeah, we all knew it was coming, so.
We all hoped it was.
What, you're telling me PGI would only use half the models they made for Mechwarrior Online in games and save the others for, nothing?
Yeah.
It's true. Too. Because HBS uses those assets, so.
Now, I don't want to say it's free real estate, but...
Yeah. Hey, guys, you can check that one off on your bingo card.
I'm glad that they say it will be more narratively focused than Mechwarrior 5, so less procedural stuff.
Should be good. I'm excited.
Yep.
Start up a new campaign, play with... The game is fun. It was never not fun, so...
Hey, we're getting the Draconis Combine expansion soon now? Did that just come out, or is it just about to come out? Hey, I like Draconis Combine. I like Smoke Jaguars. I'm excited about both of these.
All I know is about once a month, my brother calls me up and says, like, you want to play Mechwarrior 5? And we all drop in assault mechs and blow things up for about 45 minutes.
And it's a fun 45 minutes.
It is. It is indeed. I take that Nightstar. I see how many head caps I can get. He takes an Annihilator.
Same.
Yep. So, in any case, got any other news?
No, that's it for news, but let's move on to some hobby progress. I went to Fortress Miniatures and Games and picked up some of my first VTOLs. I picked up a Sprint VTOL, a Pinto VTOL, and some VTOL infantry because I guess I just like VTOLs. I also picked up some of their 6mm and 10mm mech bay crews from Baffo Miniatures.
We got to do a Bay 3 diorama with the all the things coming out of the vents at them.
My one critique is I love the sculpts, but the packaging was just pretty awful. Like, the models are pretty brittle, and there's just no insulation in the bag from the manufacturer to, like, stop breakage. So I had, like, a couple of the light sticks come off, and I've seen pictures of people that were pretty much just destroyed in the bag.
So any amount of impact.
At that scale, yeah, it's pretty tough to glue that stuff back together. So, it's me. So I very diligently and slowly and dutifully painted my Infinity. So I started an Infinity army like 2 years ago. And then since we've recorded last, I bought like 25 miniatures for a new army. And so I painted one model for that. So I mostly worked on the tag. I don't know what that stands for, but it's the big robot. And so that's basically, that was my hobby progress. So my new schedule leaves me some free time in the morning, so I can get about 30 to 45 minutes of painting time in. And if I spread that out over the week, I can get something painted.
Nice.
So that was, yeah. So mostly buying, assembling, and painting the Shakoosh. Those who know. Yeah. And you can check that out on our Discord. So that was my, yeah.
I used to have a koosh ball. Yeah.
A koosh ball? Yeah.
Same thing.
That was my hobby progress this week. Did I do anything else? No, I was mostly trying to wrap up the book club book and getting that thing painted up. So I did practice a little for what I plan on bringing to Southern Assault. So it was in spirit related to BattleTech, kind of, not really, but yeah. What about you, Denham?
Well, it is October, and I was chatting with our friends over at BungleTech, and they like the initiative deck. Like, they like to play the initiative deck as it's actually meant to be played, not as I use it as just a cool BattleTech themed deck of cards, but they actually use all those modifiers and stuff on there. So what they have done is they have created a Black Marauder initiative deck to go with it. It's got this really cool Eldritch horror theme going on. So one player plays the Black Marauder, and the other player or team has a lance or star of mechs that are hunting it down. And since it has its own initiative deck, it's super powerful. It's scary. It definitely gives it a good Halloween vibe. Like if you like Cthulhu, it's got that feel to it, in my opinion. So I was helping with that, mostly just like looking for editing problems, looking for just little bits. Yeah, quality control type stuff. It's going to be fun. I'm definitely going to be running that during our October events, just to get into the Halloween spirit. So look for that over at my hobby store. I also for Hobby Progress, because it's got to count. Have been working on my Mechwarrior Halloween costume, because like for our campaign day in October, I'll absolutely be coming dressed up as my favorite Mechwarrior.
Oh man,
so, are you to see that?
Dustin, what's your favorite Mechwarrior? I don't know. It's the guy with the bucket on his head from 1983.
Hey. Yeah, I mean, I won't have that. It's more of the Mechwarrior out of the cockpit look I'm going for. I'm not going to be showing up in my like tidy whities with a bucket on my head. As no funny as that would be,
here. We established this. We spent an entire day going over Mechwarriors wear more than that, and it was just like one dude who didn't wear clothes in the cockpit, and everyone was like, "Oh man, that person's really good." Yeah. I guess going nude in the cockpit's just how I win now.
I will be dressed up as a Mechwarrior RPG player who is in his like favorite bar on Solaris type of thing.
So, all right. Awesome. I'll try to catch that. That sounds like fun.
All right. We want to get in some games played?
Yeah.
I got games played. You got games played?
Oh, I got games played. I was only here for, a couple days before I left, but even I got games in.
Nice.
I got to play the winner of the Nova Open BattleTech, Jeff, in a No Mechs 5K Classic game.
And this is, Classic. This is in an Alpha Strike. So how'd that go?
It went good. We used the new Gale Force 9 City Tech Hex Tech terrain, like the pre-made ones.
Yeah. That would work well for vehicles. Yeah.
It would. And I was like, oh man, I really want to try this brand new terrain out with vehicles. So I took a Ontos, a Pegasus, a Bola stealth tank, and just like an APC and some infantry. Yeah, so he took 2 DCMS hover tanks, a Demolisher, and some like clan. They're the medium ones. That's right. They're not elementals. They're medium elementals, like the weird dark
elemental
ones.
3s.
No, there's
no
like exoskeleton type things, but slightly more than.
If you search like clan battle armor, there's clan medium battle armor, and that is its own suit.
Okay.
And then he had some regular like clan infantry thrown in there as well. So it was a good game. We learned quite quickly that shooting cluster weapons at vehicles just blows whatever's treads, wheels, skirts.
Right. Vehicles, in my opinion, it's not how much you hit them for, it's how often you hit them is what does the real damage.
And most of my stuff was like, all right, this tank has a Gauss rifle, and this one has a light Gauss rifle, and then the Ontos is medium laser funness. His was like, I've got 2 SRM4s, 2 SRM4s, and like he this wasn't like him tweaking his list. Yeah, no, this was like, oh, I just took this, and I didn't think that this would be that effective. I was like, yeah, so you roll per weapon, or not per weapon, per hit. So
per hit. It's a lot of rolling. Vehicles bring a lot of rolling.
Yeah, I really like how Alpha Strike does it, where you're only rolling once, like kind of per unit that smacks your vehicle around.
I like that too. Like that. Yeah, that felt like nice okay. That is how I would like. I like this in Alpha Strike. Can I put it in Classic? Like, okay, you've shot me once. It doesn't matter what. You roll on the motive table. Was it? But we did play with like the full skidding and side slipping rules with vehicles, which is all right. He's got 2 fast hovercraft. We did move, and he tried to turn, and lost control, skidded into a building. The building then does the motive roll on the hovercraft, immobilizes it. Hovercraft's okay, but immobile next to the objective with my tank, which is now freshly immobilized on the objective, and they're just plinking away, just like throwing rocks at each other. That was fun.
Sounds like you guys got to learn a lot.
Yeah, it was definitely like, we're going to keep this low BV, low rolling, and it still took a while, but it looked great on the like actual city terrain. Like,
yeah, I'm sure it did. You going to try and make this more regular thing?
I might. I mean, I definitely want to start including like, hey, let's throw like 1 or 2 vehicles in our games per game, just to like, just like
combined
arms.
See, for things like that, like pickup games where you just have a couple vehicles, I certainly don't mind using the Total Warfare vehicle rules for that. But for campaign games where I want to use like a lot of vehicles or have a lot of goblins or minions like that, then I'll go with the BSP vehicles. But I think they both have their place.
Yeah, I mean, definitely in this game, the vehicles were the only stars of the show, so there was nothing like competing with them.
You don't want to do BSP with that.
Exactly.
It's silly.
But if like, okay, I'm running like a lance of mechs and then a lance of vehicles, then I'm like, okay, at what point is the vehicles just kind of there existing for funness?
Right.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I've run combined arms games in the past, and the vehicles, I bring a tank and a hovercraft or 2 tanks and use Total Warfare rules. It's fine. Gets the job done. Cinematic. Bring a stand of infantry, run your combined arms game. It's fun.
Yeah, that was my my one game before I left. What about you, Dustin?
One game of BattleTech that had no mechs in it. Yeah,
it's BattleTech, not Battle Mech. Dustin, did you play mechs? Did you use mechs?
I did. No, I did not use mechs. So I did get a game. I got a game of Infinity in. I played my Tartary Armory Corps versus I got a Foreign Company. So had a good game. I'm like six or 7 games in on Infinity, and it's great. It's deep, but boy, do you get your ass kicked and as you're learning this game. But yeah, I had a great game with a great opponent out here. I won't get into the weeds and the details because this is not an Infinity podcast, but as I said on the server, I've got Southern Assault coming up, so I'll get dragged back, whether I like it or not.
I feel like you're event only now.
No, I ran the tournament and I've been on a little bit of a break, and BattleTech was my first, and it's not going anywhere. Don't worry, folks.
You're just taking the mistress out occasionally.
Yes, indeed I am. So, yeah, I got that game in. Had a great time.
Denham, what have you played lately?
I have not been taking a break from BattleTech. We've been doing a lot of Solaris recently, mostly on the Coliseum map because everybody loves the 3D buildings and making them go up and down with the pillars and knocking people off there, and it's a lot of fun. And you can actually get multiple. I had one of them end on turn 2. Type of thing, not even through a headshot. Just it's vicious when you get in there. We can get in a lot of games, and we've been keeping track. We've got individual pilots, and we've got like well, I mean, we don't have an official league yet. We're building up to it. We are 100% going to do a league, but we're just trying to keep track to see how easy it's going to be for us to keep track of stuff like that. I did get a game in on the factory map, which man, that needs a 3D STL version, like so bad, because the map is not accurate. There are actually errors on the map because like when you look at the different levels that have dotted lines and they're off to the side type of thing, they don't line up properly on all of the little places. So I have a plexiglass cover that I put down, and I just go back and redraw the lines with a dry erase marker. Just so that we don't get confused with what's on the map. But if we had a 3D version, it wouldn't be a problem.
That one's got a bridge, like a level 3 bridge, doesn't it?
Does have it's a level 4 bridge, yeah. So you've got a level 4 building and then a level 8 building, because you got one that's 2 stories and one that's 3 stories.
Are people pushing each other off the tops of those buildings?
I tried, but yeah, we both took mechs that didn't jump, so we were just running around. I was in a hammerhead, and my opponent was in a It was a mech that he painted up to look like a Gundam. It was he was running a custom. Yeah, it was a Vixen. It was a fantastic paint job. I really liked the mech. It had one of those improved heavy large lasers. Did a lot of damage unless you've got a hammerhead that takes half damage from stuff. It was remarkably close and fun, but most of it was just getting confused with with the map. There was Aron I played with. That was a lot of fun. The figuring out the map though, that was crazy. Yeah. So yeah, we're just going to be doing more Solaris. We're going to start up an actual league. We were waiting till after the tournament to even get that started, and I think enough people are excited about it that we're going to go ahead with that.
All right, we want to get in some upcoming events.
We do.
We got some.
We got some coming up.
We actually have a bunch of events. It's BattleTech Fall.
Yeah.
Fall of BattleTech. BattleTech just keeps on going. It's a train that don't stop.
All right.
The fall of BattleTech, but not in the way that you might think.
Mm-hmm. All right, Justin, you wanted to touch on Southern Assault 3 coming on November 4th in Winston-Salem.
I don't know how, but it looks like Rob pushed the number of reservations up to 96.
Jeez, man.
And he says it's booked. So maybe that'll be the largest BattleTech event in the history
of
mankind.
Yeah.
Most BattleTech being played in one day, yeah, at one place.
Definitely. So that's going to be huge. That's just going to be cool. So we've raved about Southern Assault enough. We're going to be out there. Well, 2/3 of us are going to be out there.
2/3 of us.
All right. Yeah. You had some scheduling complications.
I did some. Well, it's a story, but yeah, I mean,
it's a story. We don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Southern Assault is coming. Paint your mechs, write your lists, and get ready to have some fun rolling dice.
Hey, I am available to help anyone out who wants to practice their list against me, because they know that I will not be constructing my list to defeat theirs. So, anyone needs any practice, come on.
Next year. We'll get them next year.
Oh, yeah. 100% next year.
All right.
You heard it.
What else? Yeah. What else we got coming up?
We've got the Denham. Yeah, I'll let you do that one.
Yeah. So this coming Friday, depending on when this comes out, Friday the 29th of September, we were invited by Six Sides of Gaming to help them run through an ACES event, which ACES is that AI, basically AI version of BattleTech that right now it's done for Alpha Strike, but they're also working on a classic version. We will be playing against the AI to see if we can win. I don't know what our objectives are for this one. They did it with Big Red and Thunderhead last weekend.
Yep.
Or 2 weekends ago. So this is a thing they do on the regular, but it's our turn next. So, if you guys are bored and you want to, they stream it both on Twitch and on YouTube. So it's just go find Six Sides of Gaming, and we'll be running about 6 p.m. EST. Exactly.
All right. So we got that coming up on the 29th. What else is going on
We've got
in the BattleTech world?
We've got QuestCon Crucible in Florida. Also this weekend, so 29th and 30th, we have the BattleTech Fall Brawl in Mechanicsville, Pennsylvania.
What a nice place to have that.
I know.
Is Crucible down in O-Town, Orlando?
Yes. All right, now we've got some fan mail. We've got fan mail from Chris. Chris writes, "Hi there. I've been thinking of doing something similar to your tournament, since our go-to guy for BattleTech is way too busy with work to sit down and try to organize something."
I feel that.
Otherwise, we did do a 6K intro league glances last year that seemed to finish well. I placed high middle, but missed top 3. I took a Warhammer 6D at 3-4, an Orion K at 3-4, a Rifleman 3C at 2-2.
Wow.
And a Wasp 1K at 4-5. The Warhammer and Orion bullied while the Rifleman moved to range. The Wasp bodyguards the Rifleman, and there were only a couple of games that the Rifleman had ammo in the bins when time was called or opponent capitulated.
Wow.
One highlight, I remember the Rifleman almost completely soloed an Atlas. Minor help from the Orion. Thanks to the podcast, entertains the minds while I work. Take care, Chris. Thanks, Chris.
I love to see a Rifleman do well.
Yeah. Wow. 2-2. put a talented pilot in a rifle.
Yeah, he's not falling over and he's hitting with all his shots.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That's awesome. I like to see that.
The Rifleman 3C, that is the too large laser one, or is that the...
It's got ammo in it because his ammo
is that the
bin
AC5 large laser one? Well, that's Nic Sarna.
See, the 3N I know is the base model. That's the problem. It's like
Right.
once you switch from the base model...
2 large, 2 medium, and 2 AC5s.
Yeah.
All right, let's
Sorry,
see.
back in my day, it was 2 large lasers, 2 medium lasers,
Autocannon.
and 2 autocannons.
Yeah. So this one is the 2 autocannon 10 one.
Oh, nice.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
Standard or LB?
Yeah, just standard. It's still Intro Tech. It's an Intro Tech. It was the Intro Tech Lance League. I'm surprised.
Yeah, that one's a heavy hitter.
I'm surprised at the Wasp though. Like I wouldn't consider a Wasp as a bodyguard mech.
Well, if that's all you've got left, but it's a 696, so it just is there to make sure that people aren't behind your rifleman type thing. So if they are not so much body block, but if someone gets behind your rifleman, you get behind them. So it's just if you get back there, you're going to be punished because you're shooting at the rifleman, you're not shooting at the wasps. So it's not like they need to get their TMM up, or if they get their wasp into a bad place, but with a low TMM, you'll shoot at the wasp instead of the rifleman. Either way, it's going to take attention away from the rifleman or punish the person. So I understand it, but it's still.
But you also
it's still
took a stinger to wasp against me in our intro tournament, so I'm like, yeah, of course, Denham knows how to play a wasp better. But
yeah, good luck with the event.
Now I don't know about you guys, but let's just hop right into the main subject today. We are talking about SRMing in the rain or other weather-related jokes. There's only so many. I still like my cloudy with a chance of Mechfall. I think you can't go better than that, though.
Yeah,
I do like that one.
I'm SRMing in the rain. I'm not. This one's either over my head.
I'm singing in the rain.
Singing in the rain. All right.
Singing in the rain.
It went right over like an LRM volley.
Like an LRM volley through smoke right over my head.
But yeah, so we're talking about weather and its effects on BattleTech tabletop games. Because yeah. I want to start this topic off with saying this was something I was so excited about when I had like 1% knowledge.
Oh, really?
BattleTech tabletop. Like,
oh yeah. I'm totally agreeing with Josh on this one. Amazingly, it is definitely like when the rules for this came out, I'm like, this is amazing. I get to do weather effects and have roll random planetary effects, and it could change in the middle of the game. Like it's not just you set it and you roll every turn, and you try it once or twice. And it's like, no. But it's exciting to think about.
I'm just laughing. You're like, oh, when these rules came out, and I'm like, of course you were there. You were there when it happened.
I was.
That's one of the things. Is like everyone likes to simulate a battle with something that's not just the units each general took to the field. It's like, okay, you're fighting, the will of God in, whatever typhoon or storm or earthquake or volcanoes erupting at the same time. Like he's
all right. You say that like in the tactical operations, it does mention volcanoes, and it says, hey, if a volcano erupts, everybody's dead. It's pretty much like a nuke. Just everybody on the whole battlefield is dead. However, if you want to play with like mini eruptionites, then here are some rules. But just know it's not a volcano, because if it's a volcano, you're just all dead.
Battle mechs can't take a volcano to the face.
not a volcano to the face.
So there's really two places that all these rules that are either called, weather conditions or planetary effects are. Battle Mech Manual has them, and it even has a handy dandy sheet at the back of the book for like keeping track of these. And these are more of like, I want to say simplified versions of the rules.
They say simplified. I say, it's the stuff that after using them for a couple decades, this is the important parts. Everything else is just going to make your game needlessly long for so little return. So this is the meat of it. Everything in the Battle Mech manual. Yeah.
And the other place is, of course, Tactical Operations, where you can find rules for everything, whether you want it or not.
But I like that page in the back of the Battle Mech manual. I know I've mentioned it before. I love that little printable sheet that has all of that stuff on it. Oh, you want to hear some fun trivia before we get like deep into this subject? Because this subject is going to show you how complex BattleTech can actually get for no reason whatsoever.
Of course.
Do it.
So I was again listening to the Bungle Tech podcast, and they had Keith Hahn on, and he wrote the Total Warfare, the Battle Mech manual. I think he wrote the Battle Mech manual, and he mentioned something that I absolutely knew at the time, but totally forgot about it up until that interview. When BattleTech came out, it became very, very popular because it was like the easy battlefield simulator game. It was the least complicated. It was like easy mode. It was the one that like your little brother would get into because it was, it was so easy to do that the rules were not complex at all. And let me remind you, the rules have not changed. But now when you talk about BattleTech, it's the crunchy one. Like it is the really complicated one that you can really sink your teeth into. It hasn't changed. Just people have.
I remember listening to that part, and there was beer and pretzels. It was a beer and pretzels game back in the day, folks. So back in my day, we played Advanced Squad Leader, and we liked it.
Yeah. I just like reading through this. I just remember that going, yeah, this like the weather rules were introduced because BattleTech was too simplified. So they wanted like some of this extra layer of complexity. What were we thinking? Why?
Because it didn't take long enough, I guess. Everybody had more time back then. I guess that's what I'll say.
We did. The days were longer.
More hours in a day back then.
So many more.
It hurts because I'm like, I think they were. Like deep down, I think they were. I think you had like 24 hours in a regular day, and like you worked for a third of that, played BattleTech for a third, and a third you were sleeping.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Well, our BattleTech games would literally last a weekend. That was a normal thing.
I mean,
yep. You'd play Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday afternoon, and then you'd stop by dinner time on Sunday. That was a normal game.
I mean, it sounds like fun. Anyways, that was a huge tangent, guys.
Yeah. Let's dig into it.
Back to the forecast. So, how often do we play with weather rules? Like, let's just be honest with ourselves now. I'm going with Dustin, who's laughing over.
I am laughing because I'm pretty sure I listened to you talk about playing with light gravity rules and decided I'd never try environmental conditions. But to answer Josh's question before we fly off into another tangent, I maybe tried it once. It's been so long I don't even remember, but I'm always saying it. I'm the Battle Mech manual standard player, and
but these are in the Battle
Mech.
You've
got no excuse now.
They're not optional rules. They're really not.
Maybe I'll try them once, but no, I don't.
I really like it.
Maybe I will. I guess don't knock it till you try it. How often do you guys use them?
Oh man, I mean, the standard answer I always have. A lot of these rules are fantastic for flavoring in a campaign or a narrative or a role-playing game. But if I'm playing a pickup game, nobody wants to go through that. And if you do, you have to have those sections printed out and brought with you. Yeah. So, and highlighted, like there can't be any flipping through the book trying to look things up for this.
I have played with these, and it was a random roll, and I was, after working through it, I was like, I never want to play with these again.
Was that random roll bug storm or something fun?
No, it was just fog. But the problem is like, because this was a random roll, we chose a map that was like absolutely terrible for the weather effect, the map interaction, and the units I had selected. So it was like it was a triple whammy, and it was like, okay, I could handle two of these things. I could not handle, objective / win condition, map selected, and weather. And I was like,
I was there for this.
And
I was 2 tables over, and I remember looking over at Josh, and Josh had that "I'm not having fun" look on his face.
I'm pretty sure I said those
I
words.
remember that.
This is when I do the "tell me I'm wrong" Denham.
I wasn't playing the game, so I don't know how I don't know what I would have done differently.
Okay.
So,
side question: what about MMO? Mega Mech only?
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Weather effects, like anything with a computer doing all the math. Yeah, I'm in
Okay.
100%.
So you'll do a Mega Mech pickup game with weather effects.
Mega Mech, MWO, Mercenaries, I'll change that weather in there all the time.
It's perfect for the simulators.
I rarely play narrative and campaign style games. I would definitely contemplate running weather stuff, especially for narrative elements, helping the team get away from the big bad.
Exactly. That's how I've used it before, where if the team is going to be infiltrating or attacking an enemy, and they know that the enemy uses a lot of missiles, then they might be like, well, we're going to check the weather satellites and a storm is coming up. We're going to delay our action until this storm happens. And then everybody with missile weapons gets like pluses to hit with the missile weapons. Or if they've got a lot of laser weapons, they'll wait till like a snowstorm or it's like super foggy or whatever it is that gets rid of laser, like makes laser weapons less effective. Cause it's always a +1 to hit, but yeah. So there's a way to do that, and that's fine when you're tilting the odds in your favor when you're playing a campaign or an RPG. But if you're just doing it a randomly thing and say, oh, by the way, all your lasers are +2, or all your missiles are +2 or 3 to hit. So that just takes the fun out of it. It's not fun. Well, especially if your gunnery is a 4 or a 3 anyway, like it just means that you're never going to hit. So now the game is going to go on forever, or it's just going to become a melee slugfest. And I'm going to have little tangents all the time because we're doing the Battle Mech manual stuff, and I know a lot of the rules from the tactical operations, and I'll be able to tell you why it's actually better in the BMM. Right.
Next, we're going to go into the most common planetary effects, because technically, like we all described in tactical operations, you can have literally everything, and it's like those are great, but those should not come to your average game ever.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about bug storms here because that was not in the BMM. That is tactical operations. I recommend you read through it, but it's a mess.
There's one planet for the entire Innersphere that has bug storms, and they had to give it an entire rule section with charts and like rolls.
And it was Earth because there's like giant mutated locusts. That's what these are.
There's a short story in one of is it Game of Armored Combat or the Clan expansion? I can't remember which one it is, but there's a locust storm. They're not locusts. They're like weird bat things.
Yep.
And there's my favorite BattleTech character, which is a attractive but hard woman in that story too. There's lots of it. There's lots of those.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's dig into it.
So let's go into our first one, our first different type of weather conditions. And this is extreme temperatures. Now, I want to say the average BattleTech player has been exposed to these and their effects by playing like MechWarrior Online. Like all the ice maps are an example of extreme cold, and all of the lava and like desert maps normally have like extreme heat effects.
Do you overheat a little faster, or could you fire a few more weapons without overheating? Again, super important in the old 30-25 days when your mech tended to only have 10 single heat sinks. So getting a little bit more efficiency, that was a big deal. But with double heat sinks, it became less and less important.
Yeah, so the BattleTech manual defines extreme temperatures as greater than 50 C and below -30 C, which is
pretty extreme.
That's actually pretty extreme.
And that's where it starts. It's the least amount of change at those extremes.
I was shocked at how like little effect 51 C does to a mech.
Walking through magma is only 5 extra heat, and that's the liquid stuff.
But yeah, so for every 10 degrees C, above 50 or below -30, you just get 1 extra heat or added to you, or 1 extra heat subtracted from you.
Mhm.
It's like that's not a lot.
But I mean, 50C, it's also like just a hot Terran weather day or hot day on Terra. So 100C, you're just boiling water. I guess a mech could handle that. Easy peasy. +2 heat. Yeah. Like you were saying, Denham, for double C, heat sink's not a problem. But for singles, much more fun.
Yeah, it's definitely a big deal at that point.
So what are our thoughts on, using extreme temperatures? Like mine are, it's really easy. And you just always say like, hey, we're playing on, Mercury this time with an atmosphere, failed colonization project. So it's just +5 heat every turn. Like that's not bad. It's a little boring, but it's not bad. It's straightforward.
Of all the ones I'd want to try first, I'd go with this. Pretty easy to remember. It's like
right. It's one of those where extreme hot, nobody wants to do. Extreme cold, everybody
I'd
wants
love to do extreme hot. Then you could, reward your.
I will play with I will play with you on extreme hot, and then you'll be like, "Yeah, this is kind of boring. I can't fire my weapons."
That's one of those things where the game actually just takes longer. Like it doesn't.
No, it encourages brawling.
Well, I mean, it encourages brawling, but if then I don't run because I don't want the running heat, so I can shoot the weapon. That kind of stuff.
Embrace the conga line.
I mean, but yes, everyone in my everyman brain says, yeah, I want to play on the frozen planet of misery and shoot my all laser boats.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I get to shoot another medium laser for free. That's okay.
Easy.
It is. It's easy because there's no rolls or anything. It's just a setting you put at the beginning, and then you just remember to do it every turn. There's no thinking about it.
All right.
It's a nice introduction to planetary weather effects.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But then we go to the next one, which is fog. And this is one that I've played, and it was pretty miserable. Like, I've driven through fog and had not had as big of a problem as Battle Mech level fog.
I don't know. I turned my brights on in the fog once, and that was it. I'm like, yep, can't see anything. Need alternate forms of vision enhancement here.
But that's what mechs have. You've got enhanced imaging, right? No, that's
well, you got mag scans, you've got seismic sensors, IR, all kinds of stuff. That stuff shouldn't care about fog at all.
It really shouldn't. So why is it that it's such a detriment to all mech actions?
Because pilots are trained to use their Mark 1 eyeballs instead of their sensors. That's the only thing I can think of. That's it.
I think this one you shake your fist at the BattleTech gods and ask why. Why did you make fog so punishing?
Yeah. So let's go into the details of fog, because it does some weird stuff as well, not just vision.
So fog comes in 2 different flavors. It comes in light fog and heavy fog. Now, I want to say light fog is probably like normal Terran fog, which is just gives a penalty of +1 movement point for every hex that you enter.
Right. So no vision, no actual targeting modifiers at all. It's just movement, because you can't see where you're going, but you could target things just fine.
It's hard to see where my mech toesies are going.
Right. So you could see the terrain, but you can't see individual things like that car in front of you, and you trip over. Does
the blood asp have a quirk where it gets to ignore light fog because of those big feet?
Right.
So a 4/6 mech becomes essentially a 2/3 in fog. Entering a light woods counts as a heavy woods for movement.
Yeah. So light woods would cost 3, heavy woods would cost 4. It doesn't double it. It just adds 1 onto whatever.
So everybody's mechs become very slow.
Heavy fog has a +2 MP to entering, but it also has a +1 to any essentially direct energy or pulse laser weapon.
Disperses the laser beams.
Yeah, it just disperses your laser beam, so it diffracts it, so it doesn't focus as well and do as much damage.
So the problem is that movement MP penalty for all the fog has a whole section where you can take the MP penalty, or you can use what it calls reckless movement. Now, I know what reckless movement says in the BattleMech manual, and I'm going to give you the podium for this one, Denham, because you've done way more research for reckless movement.
Right. If you've got an older version of the Battle Mech manual, you're going to want to pull out the errata because they did change how it works. Reckless movement was worded a little bit weirdly, and it was very complicated, and it was needlessly like so much rolling. But that it's not how it was. So things like fog, and we'll get into the other ones too, like ice and mud. But anything that slows you down, if it has a movement penalty, like the minus or the +1 for the fog or +2 for heavy fog, if you take those movement penalties, that's you being ultra careful. So you don't have to make any PSRs going through it. But you can choose to ignore that and just push on through. And then when you do that, that's called using reckless movement. And every time you enter one of those hexes, then you have to make a PSR or fall down. And unless you're on pavement, you can then spend the 2 movement points to stand back up and keep moving. But if you're on pavement, you skid, even if you only moved 1 hex, and you fall down and you're done moving. So skidding ends your movement, just like normal. So yeah, reckless movement is just a way to ignore the movement penalty, but have the chance of falling down because you slid or got stuck or tripped over something.
That's rough.
It's better than it was interpreted as. So yeah, get your errata out for the BMM. The next printing will have all that corrected anyway. So
this is my sound bit too long. Don't listen. The Battle Mech manual is wrong. You don't take a PSR for every time you do anything extra. You just do it once. Or is it per hex?
It's per hex.
Per hex, like water.
Yeah, that's what exactly. It's like water. Correct. Yeah, so even if it's light fog or heavy fog, if you're ignoring the movement penalties, then it's a +1 PSR for every hex you enter. But you can go slowly and not roll at all. So that's your choice.
So that was a lot for reckless movement.
We're going to reference reckless movement several times in this. So
if you are ignoring what's there, like you say, it's not there, I don't believe in ice, mud, being careful, it's a +1 and you got to roll that PSR, which means the average pilot needs a 6 up per hex to stay standing. Okay. I just need that established on the record.
If you're running through heavy mud or over ice or through heavy fog, yeah, I agree with that. Like every single hex that you enter, you have a chance of sliding or getting stuck or tripping on something. So that makes a lot of sense to me. You can be careful, or you can move regular speed and risk falling every hex. I agree with that.
That's just fog. Let's move on. Now, we know every mech has a searchlight.
Every mech. Every single one. Mega Mech tells me so. I know that a lot of missions that talk about searchlights say that you can bolt on a searchlight to any mech.
It's a mech, for God's sakes. It should have some lights on it.
It should.
Now, did you spring for like the full xenon bulb light bar on top of your mech though?
No, I went cheap. I went super cheap.
AliExpress.
This thing
LED.
is leaking headlight fluid all over the place.
But the reason why we have searchlights is because we have different light levels. All right, so for light levels, you really have 4 different light levels. You've got normal, which every battle apparently takes in full light, like noon, essentially. That is how the rules work. And there's no penalties to that, because that's regular BattleTech.
High noon.
But then we go to, the edges of that. You have dusk and dawn, and that is just a +1 to all of your to hits. And there's no way to like really improve that unless the target has 25 or more heat.
Absolutely cooking.
Yeah, that is like extreme levels of that is literally glowing like we all saw in HBS BattleTech.
Slapping the override button.
Yeah, I mean, that thing's going to be shut down anyway, so who cares?
The next level is you have a full moon out that night. All the wolf mechs.
All the wolf mechs.
That has a penalty of +1 movement point. And of course, it has the reckless movement. For the attack penalty, you have a +2 unless that is illuminated by a searchlight. Or the target has 20 heat. So I'm like, the heat levels, like, I don't know. They are all extreme. Like, this mech is glowing to some
25.
extent.
I mean, that's exterminator levels of heat right there.
And then you have moonless night, pitch black. That is +2 MP per hex. That is reckless movement, of course, added to that, unless using a searchlight. And then you have a penalty of +3 to attack unless illuminated by a searchlight, or it's at 15 heat, which I think is probably the max that most people see mechs at.
I feel like, we should have started at 15 and done 10 and then 5. But, oh no, I snuck one in. Quick, move on before I have more hot takes.
Now, a quick point about the searchlights. Every mech that has a searchlight can highlight one mech who's in its front arc and negate that. But in doing so, it also reveals themselves to everybody who's in their front arc.
Lights work 2 ways, guys.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, searchlights, their range is 30 hexes. So, like, we're talking the entire map sheet. Like,
my God.
Yeah, it's a spotlight. So it only illuminates one unit. It doesn't. You can't spread it open to illuminate like everybody in your front arc. You just pick one unit in your front arc and do that.
900 meters.
They also weirdly have a limit of 29 hexes high.
29 next time.
Yeah, you can't point it 30 hexes up. You can illuminate the 30 hex because it illuminates the hex you're illuminating and the one above it. But you can't illuminate that 31st hex that is out of spotlight range. However, weapon attack doesn't care if you're 100 levels high. As long as you're adjacent to someone, it's still 1 for range. So,
given that each hex is 30 meters, that's almost a kilometer. That is quite the spotlight.
That's not completely unimpressive. I mean, the naval historian of the group will say, that's a little on the short side.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So that's our light levels. Dusk, dawn.
Now, the thing is searchlights are destroyed on a roll anytime the unit with the searchlight takes a hit in any torso location. On a 7-up, the searchlight is destroyed. Which means essentially the first or second hit, the searchlight's gone. So you've got 1 or 2 turns where the thing is, the tactic here is you spot with one thing, you let that searchlight get broken, you spot with the next thing on the same target.
It's like rolling armor, but rolling spotlights.
Yeah.
One of our early campaign missions used Moonless Night and spotlights, and it just got pretty annoying, having to remember spotlights and having like that extra step of who's illuminating who and who got their spotlights destroyed. It was just added time. It probably added an extra hour onto our game.
But you know what you don't need a searchlight for? Rain, the next thing on the weather list.
It doesn't work in the rain. It doesn't work in the fog.
So just like here on Terra, rain has, 4 different levels. We've got regular moderate rainfall. We've got heavy rainfall, probably closer to like a hurricane or something. And then we have downpour, which is you might as well just be underwater in using those rules.
And the fourth one is it's sunny, not raining at all.
Technically it is like an option. Like rain, no, that is an option.
Yeah.
But the problem is all rain causes mud, and mud is the big like effect of rain. And mud is,
it's going to slow you down, or you're going to take a PSR. Yeah, because that's the simplified rules. The regular rules in the tactical operations, you can also get stuck in mud. So you can get bogged down. You can get stuck. If you jump in mud, you're automatically stuck. If you're walking, you have to try and pull yourself out. And if you fall in mud, you have to make 3 PSRs, 1 to unstick your prone mech, 1 to stand up, and then 1 to extricate yourself so that you could actually move. So 3 PSRs at a plus.
Are battle mechs really that susceptible to rain and mud? Lord have mercy.
No,
yeah.
The mud. Yeah.
Yikes.
And a lot of people look at the maps that have like the depth 0 water, and they're like, well, what are the penalties for that? And I tell people it's just bluegrass. It doesn't do anything. In the rain, those are the first ones that are going to turn to mud, are those depth 0 waters. The heavier the rain, the more mud there is. But light rain, it just starts at the depth 0 ones.
Rain itself, though, not the hardest thing to really understand. Regular moderate rain, it's a +1 to all weapon attacks, just in general. Because, rain getting in the way of like sensor returns and whatnot. Heavy rain gets +1 to weapons, and it's a +1 to any PSRs you take in the rain. Because I guess you're focused on, keeping the cockpit window closed, keep the water out.
So those mud hexes will end up being a total of a +2 PSR. One for the mud, one for the heavy. Yeah, if you're recklessly moving through the mud, yes.
And then torrential downpour, the hurricanes, that's a +2 to all weapon attacks and +2 to PSRs.
Yeah. Side note, it also turns those depth 0 water into swamps, which is just fancy mud in the Battle Mech manual, because the Battle Mech manual is only Battle Mechs. For all other units, it's actually +2 movement point, not +1. Battle Mechs just treat it like mud. Other units treat it as much, much more difficult.
So what are our thoughts on using rain? Like, it's just a general negative across the entire battlefield in my brain.
I like the least amount of rain to turn those depth 0 waters into mud. I like having those do something sometimes. So they're there. You can walk across them, but it's going to be, or you can run across them, but it's going to be a little bit more dangerous. I do like using rain on a well-marked map.
That's the thing. It needs the right map to really have the right effect.
Rain is, just it seems like another thing that will slow the game down a lot. Literally slow your mechs down, extra rolls, extra PSRs, extra falling and standing. This gets a big yikes.
Now, I do think it's funny, the interaction with rain and the previous thing, extreme temperatures. You can't have rain below -30°C. So if you're getting the free heat sinking, you can't get rain as well. It didn't give me an upper, but I do want to say if you're above 100°C, you probably don't have rain either.
What's the rain made out of? What planet? Is it raining sulfur and turning the rocks to mud?
On page 25 of the tactical operations, they actually discuss all of this. Yeah, they say that it's something you need to talk to with your opponent, and logically you should be able to work it out. But then also you can really do whatever you want if both of you are insane. So you can have acid rain in the super cold temperatures and have both if you really want to.
If y'all are into that, I ain't gonna kink shame.
Exactly. But it's another one of those that says if your opponent is not into it, you just
don't.
Just
all right. So is that rain? Did we do rain? Did we make it through rain? All right.
Now the thing is, what do you get when you have rain in one of those extreme temperatures? It's called snow.
Hey, I'm from North Carolina. I don't believe in that. That is a myth.
We've all seen the pictures of the interstate with the AT-AT, sir. So snow has 2 levels. It is moderate snow or heavy snow, and I think that's pretty okay. All levels of snow are just a +1 for all weapon hits. 1 harder to hit for everything. Heavy snow, though, is a +1 to PSRs, because it's just like heavy rain. You're having a hard time seeing what's going on.
Snow will weigh you down. It will bother you. It'll mess up your mech's balance.
I did think this was pretty cool, but also pretty lame at the same time. For snow at the start of turns 20, and for moderate in turn 15 for heavy, each non-water hex then is like converted to deep snow.
So It takes 200 or 150 seconds. That's heavy snow. Really heavy snow. Yeah, that's a little strange. I get it, but also Battle Mech battles are supposed to, the game, your BattleTech game is supposed to be a snapshot. It's like a 1 or 2 minute battle. The snow should not build during that battle.
Like, I thought this was cool, but I feel like everyone could just be like, hey, it's snowing, like that is what the weather is, and it's, the snow has already landed. So
again, this is like the weekend battles where you want to get something done before the snow gets deep. So it's like something in the map that changes halfway through the battle, or 2/3 of the way through the battle, and you're really trying to achieve your objective before then, because extracting with the little gizmo that you picked up is going to be a lot harder if you have to trudge through the heavy snow. So you want to do it before that piles up.
Your game shouldn't last more than 12 turns. That's just me.
Snow is weird too. Like heavy snow. Heavy snow is weird because if you've got heat sinks in your legs, if you have at least one, it sinks 1 extra heat. But if you've got 4 in your legs, it's still just 1 extra heat. You can't get any more than that.
It's not like water.
Walking through
Strange.
Snow. Right. I think if you're laying in snow, you can get rid of 3 or 4, but that might be a tactical operations thing.
If you were prone in deep snow, I mean, heavy snow is deep snow, but then you get 3, because It just has enough surface area contact. I don't know. I'm not the physicist here. But yeah, so snow on the ground, it's just like mud. So when I say snow is +1 movement point per hex, yeah, it's just like mud.
Yep. And then if you decide to get reckless, you can plow your way through the snow, but you're probably going to fall down at some point.
We'll move on to the next thing, and that's essentially snow without the water in it, which is just wind.
Wind.
This is one I expected to see so much more of in like my games. Like It was just one of those things that I instinctively thought, oh, so we're going to play with like wind effects to our battles and like artillery backscattering and stuff like that. And I was kind of disappointed when I saw what it actually was. But
okay.
Wind has 3 levels. It has moderate, strong, and storm. I feel like you could have multiple of these. Like you could have wind and rain. You could have wind and snow. Like it's meant to be combinations, not just exclusive, which is good.
It is. There's tables in the tactical operations that tell you which ones should and should not be bundled together.
We can't play BattleTech with our weather. Moderate wind. It's just a +1 hit for missiles. So we already had the energy penalty one of fog. Now we have wind is bad for missiles. That makes sense, right? Right?
Sure. If it gets strong enough, because the next level is +2 to hit for missiles and then +1 for direct fire ballistics. So your autocannon rounds are going to curve slightly. So your mech's got to grab that big tuft of ground and then drop it to gauge like where the wind is going and correct that. Put in a couple clicks over on your...
We can't shoot past a click, Denham. This is BattleTech. I think...
I mean, a literal click, not
yeah,
a kilometer.
ELRMs, 31 hexes, that's 930 meters, baby.
Yep.
Anyways.
And that also adds extra PSRs if you have to take them.
Now, Stormwind, that's what I want to fight in. Because that's +3 to missiles, +2 for direct ballistics, and +3 to PSRs. That is, you hit anything. Like, if you're able to hit anything with hopefully lasers or fist, because those are the only 2 things you're going to be hitting in a storm level wind. They're just all pretty much automatically falling down.
This is Victor Steiner Davian fighting in Trowon level stuff right here.
Yeah, there are 3 levels of wind in the Battle Mech manual. There are more.
Oh, tornado! You can have a tornado.
Oh yeah, you can get up to tornadoes, and it's fun because if you ever play that in Mega Mech, like
today we're fighting in Oklahoma.
All infantry and vehicles like non-mech vehicles are just destroyed. They're just gone.
That sure.
3, 4, 5. Yeah, so there's 5 wind conditions, and
they're just like, please don't play in that level. Like, it's not there to have fun.
You can do it if you really want to, but don't tell us your complications. We don't want to hear it.
Now, I'm going to tack this on just because it is like the main reason you would play with wind, besides, to penalize your LRM taking friend. And that is its effect on earth, wind, and fire. Just fire and smoke. Sorry. But if you're using fire or smoke, you should probably use wind just like to have some effect. Right? At least that's in my opinion. What about you, Denham?
First of all, okay, so the fire rules in the Battle Mech manual take up a full page. I mean, it's on 2 pages, but it's half of one page and half of the other. So it's one full page is just fire and smoke. In the tactical operations, it is 6 full pages. A much smaller type font too. It's a lot of stuff. The big difference is that in the Battle Mech manual, fire spreads on a 12. In the tactical operations, it spreads on a 9. So it happens a lot more, and it happens a lot more often because it can spread in 3 directions instead of just one, like it does in the Battle Mech manual. If you're going to use fire and smoke on the tabletop, please use the Battle Mech manual.
Really?
stuff.
I was going to say use the tactical operation stuff.
Don't play at my game unless we have a full weekend.
But if you're using it, if you want to play with smoke moving and fire moving and all that in your games, you want wind. And really all you have to do is on that bottom sheet, Battle Mech manual pretty much spells it out clearly. You roll 1 dice. It's just like artillery. That's the direction the wind blows for the entire game.
It is something you're supposed to do before every game, is to find out which direction the wind is blowing, even if it's not like the moderate wind is extreme wind. Like it's always got wind. It just doesn't affect you until it gets to moderate.
Our missiles have enough guidance systems to correct for sub 50 mile an hour winds.
It has no guidance. You're just kind of lining it up and arcing it, hoping it hits something. And wind will blow that off a little bit. Yeah.
So of all the weather conditions I've played with, I guess I've technically played with fire because I've played with smoke.
I will say I was disappointed that fire only spread on a 12 in the BattleTech manual, and it only spread in but it spreads for 2 hexes.
It spreads for 2 hexes if the wind is high enough. Normally it only spreads for 1 hex. So it's just like 2 hexes in a straight line. Whereas in the tactical operations, it can spread to the hex directly downwind on a 9, and then the 2 hexes next to it on a 12 up. So it can actually spread a lot faster.
Yeah.
I also understand why they didn't, because you have to roll per hex that's on fire.
Right. Per hex that's on fire per turn.
So if you have someone with a lance of fire starters or a bunch of commandos with infernos or something that are just like, hey, I start fires either automatically with infernos or on 3-ups with flamers. It's weird how that's, you would think it'd be the opposite, but no.
Yeah.
Right.
That every time they light a thing on fire, you have to roll per hex that's on fire to see if it spreads. And if there's wind, then that's the direction it would spread in.
Great. Bring your fire starter, light everything on fire, and then your opponent will shake hands and leave the game. And then you win, technically.
Yeah, sure. But at what cost? Eventually you're going to run out of people who want to play with you.
Woods that are on fire, or I should say foliage that is on fire, is only 5 heat. It's not the worst. It's an engine hit.
If your scenario calls for it, if there's a reason for it, absolutely play with it. But if it doesn't, don't just throw it into your game because you know the fire rules. If there's no actual reason to have it happening, it just takes up too much time. Because a lot of times the fire won't even be in a place where the mechs are fighting, where they'll just leave that area. So you want to have it as part of the mission.
I'd rather see people just use fragmentation missiles like LRMs and just try to destroy woods hexes rather than burn them down and to make it spread.
Yeah.
Where there's smoke.
Most smoke counts only as light woods. There are some launchers that will fire heavy smoke, or if a heavy enough building is on fire, it will do heavy smoke. But for most things, smoke is light smoke.
One of the things we haven't talked about yet with fire spreading, and the subsequent smoke and smoke drifting as well, and the winds, because it does that as well, is you have to keep track of all of this. And even if you're using little chits or whatever, it gets crazy real fast. It turns the paper that you're playing on into a mess immediately.
Right. And there's a map there. One of the Tukiad maps has built-in smoke and fire, and it comes with a bunch of fire and smoke chips to use. And you just start tiling your map. Bring up a good sized map with a lot of trees on Megamech and just start starting fires and just see how many calculations, just watch it scroll up as it does fire calculations, and realize that you're going to have to roll every single one of those by hand on the
MMO
table.
People.
Megamech only, for sure.
So these are our simplified. Denham, can you go into why we use these and not the tactical operations full weather effects?
Well, I already told you, first of all, the smoke takes up 6 times as many pages in the tactical operations. We go up to F5 tornadoes in there. And then you've got the fun things like bug storms, which you think, yeah, that sounds kind of weird. You get some bugs on your mech's windscreen, and you're got the windshield wipers just smearing the bug guts all over the place. But it gets into bug storm type table, so you actually have to roll to see what kind of bug storm you have. You can have localized ones that are just hanging around in a hex and they're just causing problems in there. Or you can have transient ones, which are bigger ones, so they do the hex and all hex is touching it, and then they move around. Or you can have a mass migration where it's a giant It's like a long tom sized circle of bugs that go around, but then you have to roll again on the table. And if you roll that again, then the entire map is bugs. The whole map is covered in bugs. Yep. Now some of these bugs are just, you have to roll again to see what kind of bugs they are, because they use bugs generically. But some of them are like lethal. They're voracious. If they're attacking open topped vehicles or infantry or lightly armored infantry, they start doing damage and eating the people who are going out there. They can cause a lot of problems for combined arms.
So
forces.
you can go Starship Troopers if you want here in TAC Ops.
It's a bug planet.
Yeah, these are just the flying ones.
It's a bug planet.
Yeah.
Sir, those are called hoppers. The TAC Ops rules are
they go crazy.
Good, but they are extremely in-depth, and I'd say overly in-depth for like a non-level where that person has looked up the rules for that specific weather type that adds to the scenario they're wanting to use.
Tactical operations is fantastic for people who are playing with a group of friends who all know the rules hands down. If they like, not the tactical operations rules, but like the Battle Mech Manual or Total Warfare, like the people who have read through those books multiple times and they don't have to look anything up and they want more variety in their games. Absolutely. Tactical operations is the place to go. And it's a lot of fun, but it's not something to introduce a new player to at all. That's just a good way to scare people off, because it's not the 80s anymore. This isn't
graduated from beer and pretzels. Now it's crunchy 80s mech simulator that nobody wants.
That's right.
Quite a lot of play. Hey, maybe crunchy is back in. I know it is for me. I've heard people say I don't want to do math in my war game, and I'm like, I do want to do math in my war game. But anyways,
what I wanted to like kind of finish this weather thing in, this weather conditions like breakdown is, how would we want this implemented if it were to be implemented into like regular play? Like, I know a lot of other games have like you roll for like time of day on a 10, 11, 12. It's something other than what it is normally. Or all right, on a 6, 7, 8, you're playing on a green grassy planet, like everyone's favorite continental Terran world. And anything above that, it's like, 1 is a rain planet and 5 is a hot planet, like something like that. Is that how we would want to see these done?
Well, that's exactly how it's done in the tactical operations. I mean, there's charts to roll it on. So yeah, like that's the easiest way to do it. If you want to make it part of your regular play with the Battle Mech Manual, since it's all simplified, they want you to cherry pick it and know exactly what you're getting into. Therefore, they don't do it that way. But yeah, if I wanted to make it regular, I would make up a table. Even if I didn't have the tactical operations book, I mean, you just go through the Battle Mech Manual and make up a table. You count how many there are. You start rolling on a list, and you can weight them differently depending on how often you want those to come up. But yeah, if you do, absolutely print out that sheet in the back of the Battle Mech Manual and mark off what's going on, so you have something to reference and everybody remembers. It's there for a reason.
I will say I'm a little disappointed that all these are just significant penalties. Like,
right. Yeah, that's a really good point.
They don't, I don't want to say they don't bring anything to a game, but they detract more from a game. Yeah, they're always punishing.
Like it definitely helps you for your theater of the mind, but what it really does is it makes all of your pilots a little bit worse at piloting or a bit worse at gunnery. And with that curve, when your 8s and 9s are suddenly 10s or 11s on average, you're just going to draw that game out significantly. And even then, if you're going into a slugfest, that means you're going to be using reckless movement to try and catch up to somebody, which means you're going to be making PSRs for every weird hex you're going through, and you're going to fall down and not make it to them. More mechs are going to die through falling pilot injuries than actually getting shot or punched. Where I see them most of all, though, is in published scenarios where you've got like the misery, all the fights on the misery planet in one of those the little scenario booklets, and it will tell you this mission has these planetary conditions as optional things, and if you use them, you get more rewards at the end. So you actually get you get a reason to use them, is because it makes it harder, and you're going to get more SP or WP at the end of the mission. That's a good way to do it, is actually have a reason, which isn't going to happen in just pickup games. But again, when it comes back to campaign and games like that, narrative type of games, it's a big bonus.
Yeah.
We need BSPs for weather. Same idea. Just turn it into a separate deck, simplify it down to something flavorful. But
so kind of like what is the initiative deck right now.
Yeah.
Oh, the initiative deck has a lot of these things that only last until the initiative card is gone. So it's like, like a sudden like storm comes out of nowhere and then disappears in like 15 seconds.
Yeah, I just want to see things simplified and then something just more positive effects or less incredibly punishing. Like 50% of this stuff makes it really difficult to just move. And war games are about positioning, so that's tough. And then the other 50% clutters and or slows the game, or just all of it. Combine all of it into a slow, cluttered, dice rolly, terrible experience. So,
I guess that's my suggestion. If you really want to use it, start off small. Use it a couple times until you really have the rules down before you move on to something a little bit more, or like start combining them together. Build up to the full usage of the weather and planetary conditions. Don't just try and jump in and expect it to be fun right out of the gate. It's not that sort of game.
I don't want to say these aren't fun.
They can add stuff to your scenario for sure. Absolutely, they can add positive vibes to a scenario, but they're not fun. They can be exciting, but they're dangerous.
Memorable additions to your game.
Yeah. Stress. But stress in a good way.
Is there anything else we want to talk about with weather? Go for it, Dustin. You've been holding it back this whole time.
I know. It just...
Yeah. I can either cut it or not. It's okay.
I just want fog. Fog should like... It's a velocity thing. I know mechs have inertia, but like you should only have to PSR if you move more than, 6 or 7 hexes. Then you incur the PSR. So light fog, 6 or more hexes, PSR. Heavy fog, 4 or more, 7 or more, whatever. It shouldn't be +1 movement for every hex unless you're doing reckless.
But if you're going to do velocity, Dustin, then you're going to have to go redo all the skidding rules on pavement, because like I said, a locust that walks 8 and an atlas that runs 5.
Take skidding rules out of the Battle Mech manual. I used to ask if there was pavement on the map, I'd be like, are we playing with skidding rules this game? And I don't even ask anymore.
I think in the next real version, they're going to make it into an optional rule. I think. Don't quote me on that yet, but I think that's where it's heading, is to just make skidding an optional rule.
That's effectively how I've always played it. It's always been optional because it's always a conversation we have on whether or not that rule is on or off. Well,
yeah. Just like weather. Did both of our armies wait for this nice, beautiful, sunny day at noon to fight?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are a dirty Fed rat. I will see you in the field at 12 p.m.
Weather permitting.
If it's raining, we'll choose another day. We'll be in touch.
That's right. How about a nice game of chess?
All right. Well, I think that's it for Mech Bay weather forecasting.
Fun times.
Anyone want to send us home?
You can contact us at the mechbaypodcast@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook, Discord, and Instagram. And a special thank you, as always, to our Patreons. Remember, if you have just too much free time, or your BattleTech turns are over way too fast, add some planetary conditions into your game to get that full immersive simulator experience. The hours will just melt into days.